In this video, we want to understand the relationship between the center of mass of the trunk, shown here, projected onto the floor during a walking cycle. And it should be obvious that when we go to single leg stance, what's shown in this picture, we have to shift our weight over so that the center of mass passes through the stance foot. When we go to single leg stance, as in the stance phase of walking, we need strong support from the lateral hip muscles to maintain the pelvis level. So here we see a graph from the text that shows the hip abduction in negative and adduction in positive throughout a gait cycle. We can see that the hip at initial contact is close to neutral. As we move into the ipsilateral side, we'll see there's some amount of adduction as we shift our weight over to that side. So by foot flat, we've essentially shifted our weight and are now in single limb support starting at 10% of the gait cycle. As we progress through the stance phase, there's a slight amount of abduction occurring, returning to neutral about opposite initial contact. And then right after opposite initial contact, by toe off, we have slight about 10 degrees of abduction during double limb support until we reach toe off at about 60% of the gait cycle. And then from toe off to subsequent initial contact, we essentially bring the limb back to the zero position for a subsequent heel strike. Here we see three footprints. We have initial contact on the right limb here represented to a subsequent initial contact, and that's one gait cycle. And if we project the center mass of the trunk onto the floor, it would look like this. And so this would be the path of the center of mass, going from one foot contact to another and then back to another. So just to reiterate, what we're trying to look at now is how the hip motion really helps us understand how the center of mass is passing from double limb support to single limb support. So let's relate the hip angles now to where the center of mass is on the floor. So at initial contact, this is a period of double limb support, so the center of mass is about halfway between each limb. And then as we go to foot flat, the center of mass is moving in to the base of support of the stance foot. And then as we go to heel off, the center of mass has to move into the forefoot. And now we're back to the beginning of double limb support when we have opposite initial contact. So now the center of mass is halfway between each foot. And then as we go to opposite toe off, the center of mass now is in the middle of the opposite stance foot. And then now as we go to initial contact and completing the gait cycle, we're back into another period of double support. The center of mass is between each foot.